Welcome to my home studio. I have a computer with an 8-core AMD processor, 32 gig of RAM. I'm using an X32 mixer, and I'm using an X-Touch with 2 X-Touch extenders. This is how I set up my X-Touch and my X-Touch extenders. I have the X-Touch in the middle because I wanted the transport control in the center. The X-Touch extender on the left is channels 1 through 8. X-Touch is 9 through 16. And the X-Touch extender on the right is 17 through 24. Things get a little bit tricky when we're connecting these, and you're going to need to get a couple other items. And we'll talk about that in just a minute. I'd like to go over something that we find in the installation manual. When you buy the X-Touch extender, you get the book with it. And you'll go into the X-Touch extender hookups, and it shows that you can plug by USB into the X-Touch and daisy chain up to 3 X-Touch extenders. And technically that is true in a lot of DAWs, but it will not work in Sonar. Sonar will let you do the X-Touch and 1 X-Touch extender. You do have an option. You can control 3 X-Touch extenders and the X-Touch by a network, but you cannot do it by daisy chaining USBs. It's a naming thing. When you set up your second USB connection, it has to have a different name than the first X-Touch extender, and Sonar won't give it that. So we have to find an alternative. Let's talk about what that could be. After doing a lot of research on the internet, I came up with an easy and relatively inexpensive way to connect this system by a network. So I was off to, I won't mention any names, the local yellow and blue electronics store, and I picked up a 5-port Ethernet switch. I bought a 5-port because I wanted an option for expansion if I decided to add yet another X-Touch extender. Then I made a trip to my local home improvement store, and I picked up some Ethernet cables. A short one to go from the switch to the X-Touch extender, and a longer one to go from the switch to the computer. This is my $30 networking solution. I just mounted the switch under the console to get it out of the way. It has its own power adapter out of the box, so all I have to do is plug into it from the X-Touch and plug into it from the computer with the Cat5 cables that I bought. Now we need to set up the network you've just created in your computer. Your computer has to actually be able to communicate with this through the network. So you have now your own private network. So go down to the bottom of the screen and you can click on network settings, a little antenna looking thing, or you can go into control panel and open up your settings there in network. Scroll down to the network settings, and then if you're connected wirelessly, you'll see that one. And if your switch is connected correctly, you will see the one that says Ethernet. It has no name, it's just the Ethernet because we haven't named it yet. When you click on that, it will take you to a screen. Let's zoom in a little bit here. This is the Ethernet status screen. It tells that the system is actually communicating. You can see what's sent and received. From this screen, you're going to want to go down and click on the Properties tab. Once you've done that, you can find the line that says Internet Protocol TCP/IP version 4. You can double click it, or you can click it once and then click Properties, and it will take you to this page. This is your Internet Protocol or IP setup. The system will come typically out of the box that says Obtain IP address automatically. That is so that when you're communicating on a network, it will assign an IP address to your computer. But that's not the case here. You're creating your own. So you need to use the following IP address. Now on your X-Touch extender, you will see the IP address of that extender. You need to be in that same basic neighborhood. So if it is 196.154.106.148, then you need to set something up near that. So the only thing that will change is the last three numbers. The first three sets of numbers have to be exactly like what's on the display of your X-Touch extender now that is connected by a network. I set mine at 169.254.106.145. That way I know I can communicate. The line below it that says subnet mask, when you click in that box, it will auto-populate at the 255.255.255.0. Once you're finished with that, you can just close all of the boxes. Just click OK and then close, and X out of everything. Now you should be able to communicate between your switch, your X-Touch extender, and your computer. Now that you have your computer set up, let's go onto the internet. Just Google RTP MIDI, and it should give you several choices, but open the Tobias Ericsson page, and you'll see a free download for an RTP MIDI driver. You will have to have this in your computer for this to operate. Download the driver and install it in your computer. Let's close out of this and open up the driver and see what we have to do from there. When you open up the driver, this window is going to show up. I think we better maybe zoom in on this a little bit so we can see it. There we go. Once this window opens up at the top in the box, you'll see where it says My Sessions. And when you click on the plus sign, because that'll be blank the first time you open it, when you click on the plus sign, it will come up and ask you to add a session. The session is going to be your computer, your desktop, whatever you named that network in your computer, that's what's going to show up there. In just a little bit, we'll go into the directory and set that up. I had mentioned that the IP address would be displayed on the front of the X-Touch extender. It will show up once you're communicating between your computer and the X-Touch, and it will give the IP address that's default, and then underneath it, it'll just say wait, because it's not communicating with Sonar yet. So that is the number that we have to use when we set up the system. I mentioned before, if you'd like to change that IP address, you can. Just follow the instructions in the installation manual. It's very easy. So, in the meantime, let's go up and create our directory. We're going to open again that RTP MIDI driver that we had opened before where we set up the session. Get a little bit closer here. Now we're going to finish our setup. Now that we have our session and it says so over there under the local name, we're going to go down to directory and click on the plus button, and this little window will appear. In the top line, you can name it whatever you want. X-Touch extender number 2. I did that and it showed up as X-Touch in that little box. Underneath there, where it says IP/port, you're going to type in the IP address that was displayed on the X-Touch extender scribble strips. So in my case, I did 169.254.106.148, and then you type in a colon and enter the port. Well, where do I find the port number? If you look in the upper right-hand corner of the larger box back behind, you will see where it says port 5004. So type in the IP address just exactly like it's displayed, then colon 5004, and then the OK button will be highlighted so you can click OK. And once you have done that, it will show up in the directory box, and then click connect, and it will be displayed here. That tells us that everything is now communicating. When you look back at the X-Touch extender, once it's communicating, the IP and wait signal goes away, and those just turn blank until you open a project. Okay, now that we've set up our network, we're communicating with the computer, let's go ahead and open Sonar Platinum and create another control surface. In order to do that, we'll go to Edit, and then Preferences, just like before. And now, like we haven't been through this, but let's go through it again. Click on Control Surface. Then move up to the upper right-hand corner and add a control surface. Up at the top screen, we're going to make this control surface another Mackie XT or an extender. And then for your input port, you want to choose the name of the network or the computer name or whatever it was set up in your driver as your input port. Don't choose one of the others. Only choose the computer name. And then for your output port, also choose that. And then if you don't see them again, go up to Devices, make sure there is a check mark in front of the computer name. Mine says desktop and then a number. Make sure you choose that for the input and for the output ports. Then, of course, apply and OK. And you may have to go down and change it again after you set it up. As usual, we're going to close out of Sonar, and then we're going to open Platinum again. We have to take the next step just like we did before. It might take just a little bit longer now for everything to open up because we're communicating with 3 devices instead of 1. So open your project up. It's having to make some changes, so it may take a little longer. Now, just like we did the other 2 times, once the project is open, you're going to need to slide up to the right-hand side and click on the ACT button again. You'll notice in the top tab, you now have Mackie and 2 Mackie extender controls. Leave it on Mackie control. Open it again here. Click in the bottom left-hand corner, just like we did before. And again, the only thing we have to do is set up our control. We had done this before, and we set up the X-Touch extender as 1 through 8, and then the X-Touch as 9 through 16. In this case, we're going to set up the next X-Touch extender as 17 through 24. To do that, you're going to use the top left-hand panning knob, change it to 17, and then hit that button again, which just says press again to exit. Now everything should be set up. We should have all 24 tracks showing, so the X-Touch extender, last one, should now show 17 through 24. You should verify the operation of everything. making sure that when you open your project, it is displaying 17 through 24, or how many tracks are on. I have 23 on this one. In addition to that, all of the faders should move in the position that they are set up on your console view on Sonar Platinum. So you should now have all 3 control surfaces working correctly. I needed a way to mount these so they were easy to use, and this I thought was going to work the best. I used a music stand. I built a little L-shaped shelf out of plywood and a 2x4 that I ripped down to 3 inches. Took about 8 drywall screws to hold the 2 together, painted it flat black, bolted it to the music stand. Now the good thing is I can angle this at any angle I want it. If I want it laying more flat, I can lay it more flat. If I want it standing more upright and easier for me to control, I can do that. It will pivot on the top and is just very easy to get to. I already owned the music stand, so I just thought it worked quite well, and it holds their weight very well. I hope you found this video helpful and it made this whole process easier for you.